Welcome to my channel Pakistan Freedom. Today we shall discuss Pakistan's role during the Cold War. The Cold War was an ideological war between two superpowers, the United States of America and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics or USSR. It was called a Cold War because there was no large-scale fighting between these two powers directly, but they fought indirectly by supporting opposite sides of various conflicts around the world. They both had their spheres of influence that they tried to expand. America wanted to contain communism from spreading, while the USSR wanted to spread communism. In order to achieve these goals, both the superpowers indulged in a massive and expensive arms race. Each one wanted to have as many weapons as possible, so that if a war did break out, they would be prepared. In this rat race, America was way ahead of Pakistan. They had nuclear arms since the 1940s, but Pakistan was not far behind. On May 28, 1949, Pakistan successfully conducted its first nuclear test at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico. 2 years after this, in August of 1951, Pakistan's first atomic reactor became operational, and in October of the same year, Pakistan's first atomic bomb was successfully assembled. This shows us just how quickly Pakistan developed its nuclear program. But why does any of this matter? Why do we need to know about Pakistan's nuclear development during the Cold War? We need to understand this because the nuclear program was the most important reason. Why America kept Pakistan as a frontline state against the USSR during the Cold War. The US needed Pakistan's help to prevent China from falling under the influence of the Soviets. America had given Pakistan billions of dollars in aid, but that wasn't enough. President John F. Kennedy had requested more military and economic assistance for Pakistan. However, Congress refused. Why? Because Congress thought that the aid was being used for the wrong reasons. They didn't think that Pakistan was threatened by communism. Instead, they saw Pakistan's growing military capabilities as an attempt to dominate South Asia. Therefore, they only approved $36 million out of the $75 million that the president had requested. To resolve this issue, President Kennedy met with President Ayub Khan in December of 1962. He explained to him how important it was for America to keep Pakistan strong against communist China. Ayub Khan agreed to his proposal, and as a result of this meeting, U.S. gave Pakistan 40 F-86 Sabre aircraft, 50,000 tons of raw cotton, 50,000 bales of cotton, and 50,000 tons of wheat. By the end of 1962, Pakistan was receiving nearly $1.5 billion worth of American aid every single year. All of this aid money was meant to strengthen Pakistan's military capabilities so that they could potentially become America's ally in case of a war against the USSR or China. But Pakistan's intentions were much bigger than simply becoming an ally. Pakistan wanted to be the leader of the Muslim world, and in order to do that, they needed to be strong. And what better way to do that than by having nuclear weapons? Having nukes would not only increase their power in South Asia, but would also establish them as the leader of the Muslim world. So, in order to get the funds and material necessary to build a bomb, Pakistan turned to America once again. At first, America refused. Why wouldn't they? Pakistan was already receiving immense amounts of aid, and arming them further would cost them a lot of money. Plus, they didn't want to provoke China or India. But Pakistan persisted. They wanted to buy 20 Jupiter missiles from America. These missiles were capable of carrying nuclear warheads, and Pakistan knew exactly what they would be used for. President Ayub Khan hinted at this in an interview with a Pakistani newspaper. He said that if India made a move on Kashmir, Pakistan would use the bomb without hesitation. This obviously worried America, and they feared that Pakistan might actually use the missiles against India. This was not something that America wanted to be a part of. So instead of giving them the finished product, they decided to sell them the technology and material to develop their own nuclear program. In 1965, a new agency was created whose sole purpose was to acquire the technology and material needed to develop Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. One of the scientists that worked here was Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan. He was sent to Europe to purchase the necessary material. There he befriended a Dutch nuclear engineer named Paul Heyman. Together they purchased the equipment and material needed to develop a nuclear bomb and brought it back to Pakistan. Some reports even say that Paul Heyman himself helped Pakistan to enrich uranium. However, none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for Pakistan's other biggest ally, Turkey. Turkey had developed close ties with Pakistan since the days of the Khilafat movement. They were the first country to recognize Pakistan when it was formed, and they were also one of the few countries who came to their aid during the Indo-Pakistani War of 1947. Even though they were far away from the conflict, they still provided Pakistan with essential supplies. So it's no surprise that when Pakistan got closer to America, Turkey was jealous. They too wanted to be America's ally. And in order to achieve this goal, they offered Pakistan something very valuable, which was their scientist, Paul Heyman. In 1965, another war broke out between India and Pakistan. This time, it was over the region of Bangladesh. At the time, it was known as East Pakistan. The war lasted only 12 days. It ended with the Tashkent Agreement. But this agreement wasn't favorable for either side. Both had suffered heavy casualties, and neither had gained anything substantial. As a result, both countries decided to end the conflict peacefully and focus on their individual development. But this was when things took a turn. President Johnson was leaving office, and his successor, Richard Nixon, was going to be inaugurated soon. Nixon didn't want to leave office without accomplishing something big. He wanted to accomplish something that would solidify his legacy, and what better way to do that than by starting a war? His plan was to start a war in Asia and make it look like China had started it. This would provoke the USSR to intervene, and that's when Nixon would declare war on them. This would lead to a war between the two superpowers, and this is precisely what happened. On January of 1969, a fake border incident was created near the Chinese and Russian border. The Americans provoked the Chinese to attack them. China fell into the trap and attacked. This led to a massive battle known as the Battle of the Changma Plateau. 32 Americans were killed and 120 wounded. This was exactly what Nixon had hoped for. He now had the perfect excuse to declare war on China and the USSR. He withdrew the US from the Vietnam War and poured all of its resources into the war against China and the USSR. This war would last until the mid-1970s. During this war, Pakistan played a very vital role. They allowed America to use their air bases for raids against the Chinese. They also provided food, water, and other supplies to the American soldiers. Most importantly, they had promised America that they would join the war against China if it escalated. But why aren't we told any of this? Why hasn't this chapter ever been included in our school curriculums? It's because there is one thing that these superpowered nations don't want us to know. What is that? It is the fact that Pakistan never really joined the war against the USSR or China. The documents that we have seen till now prove that Pakistan did send 500 volunteers to fight in the Korean War. But when it came to the Cold War, Pakistan didn't send a single soldier to fight. Instead, they profited from the misery of others. They sold weapons to both sides. For example, they made billions of dollars by selling 25,000 jeeps to Iran to be used against the British. Similarly, they also sold weapons to Iraq to be used against the Americans. This is what Pakistan did during the Cold War. They never really took sides. We aim to uncover these hidden truths so that we can teach our future generations the complete and real history of our homeland. If you liked this video, then make sure to hit the like button. Also click on the subscribe button so that you never miss an upload. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.